You're listening to the Sound of Niagara podcast, coming to you from the 11th province of Canada, Western New York, and broadcasting to Southern Ontario and beyond. Today we're talking about the leak, the Signal chat. We're talking about JD and Usha Vance going to Greenland, and we're talking about the further decline in the rule of law in America. And I'm here with Matt Deering.
What's going on, Nate?
Nothing much. Here's the music. And now I'm fading the music out. All right, you want to do a review of what's happening with this leak?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's favorite DUI hire, Pete Hegseth, along with 17 other national security advisors and the editor-in-chief of the Atlantic magazine, Jeff Goldberg, were sending fire emojis about the airstrikes on the Houthis in Yemen a couple weeks ago, 2 hours or so before the attack took place. The initiative took place on our end. It seems like the White House doesn't really know how to respond right now. Initially, a person from the White House confirmed that the texts were real, and then people came out and said they were fake. And MAGA is now spinning in disarray as they don't know which piece of bullshit from the administration and the officials that they're supposed to be parroting on social media.
Everything with them is like throw everything against the wall and see what sticks, and it dilutes what happened. So Signal is a messaging app that I became familiar with when I ran for Congress. I never heard of Signal before, and it's kind of like it's like Snapchat for adults. It's a way to hide your messages so they disappear, and so you can talk to people in a more coded way than text messages, which anybody that has access to your phone records can just look up, right? So it's more coded than your text messages. It's just an app that anybody can download on your normal phone. It's a commercial app. It's kind of famous for people who are having affairs, and it's like used for like slightly nefarious purposes.
Yeah, it was like it was like the weed dealer app. It was it's like you can have messages auto delete, and it's end-to-end encrypted messaging. So, um, it's harder than just a regular text message to like intercept or something like that.
Yeah, it's just weird though that these people are using it's like they're of that generation, right? They're like on the cusp of like millennial, or maybe
But
some of
like
this.
JD Vance straight up just is.
Yeah, so they're like these millennial people who are of the generation of Signal, which is this kind of sleazy app. Sorry, it is. It's a way of like talking bad about people without the world seeing it. Or like again, I heard about it mostly when people having affairs wanted to talk to their secret girlfriend or whatever. Like, oh, I'm using Signal. I'm like, that's weird. And then I found out later, oh, that's why they're using Signal. So it's typical that these people that are more worried about their spray tans and cultivating their perfect influencer hairstyle, that they're using Signal, right? It just speaks to the type of people they are. And I'm sorry to
Yeah,
say
I mean,
that, but go ahead.
I use Signal. I know a lot of people that do, and it seems like it is popular in government. And I understand why to a certain extent. And I think the issue with this is more about the transmission of like very specific information that any, I think, reasonable person would like assume would be classified information.
I
Um,
agree. The point isn't that Signal's bad. I just wanted to make a point that every time I've ever seen anybody use Signal, or when I've been part of Signal conversations, they were usually things that were people wouldn't be proud of. Like I remember when I was running for office, people, let's use Signal, and it was always I always complain about campaign speak and these professional campaign staffers and how they talk and how they're just so gross and petty, and that's the kind of stuff you'd see on Signal. And so they're using this to communicate not about where they're going to buy weed, but they're using it to talk about war plans. And they're doing it in again, a millennial, petty, weird way where they're sending prayer emojis and American flag emojis. It's all so tawdry and stupid. And then layer on top of it that they've
Flag
been.
emoji, fist emoji, fire emoji.
And then, and they think it's cool, right? They think, oh, we're really on top of things with our flag emojis, right? I mean, like, and then so then on top of it, they include the editor of the Atlantic, which is like, I can't even believe it's real. I really can't believe it's real. Why they're using Signal, which is they shouldn't be talking about like confidential communications, and then none of them have the brain power to check who's on the Signal chat, which tells me they're part of hundreds and hundreds of Signal chats, right?
Well, either that or like again, they're not careful. Like this is it's just very funny that Pete Hegseth said something about 100% OPSEC on
What did he
this,
What did he
which
say?
means operational. Well, you just let me see the final like one of the final texts is from Hegseth
But the texts
that
haven't been published,
says
have they?
uh no the texts have so Goldberg didn't publish the some specific information. Like he didn't publish the specific like targeting and systems information and any like source and method stuff that he may have had access to. He just posted, essentially he provided messages after the fact that speak to like the, state of mind and attitude and like a play by play um of the events from the time that he was added to the chat by Michael Waltz to the time that he chose to leave the chat after the
Oh, I
operation
see. He did
had
publish. Yeah.
concluded.
Go ahead. Concluded
And
how?
as Pete Hegseth said on the Signal chat with Jeffrey Goldberg in the chat, he said, "quote We are currently clean on OPSEC,"
Oh my
which is
God.
to
I
be
see.
clear, like this is like the exact opposite of that. And it's again, I'm not a national security official or really anybody, but I think the it just speaks to like why you're supposed to communicate on official channels, on official devices. Confidential information isn't supposed to leave, gifts, um, and it certainly shouldn't be on personal device. And that's, I think, the other thing is that we're once again being reminded of the sort of Baghdad Bob
Right.
style of communication that like every Trump official is like obligated to go out and do
And then
in the national media
I didn't.
every day, seemingly.
I'm reading it right here. Yeah, you're right. Fist, flag, fire, and good job, Pete. Pete. Good job in your Pete and your team. It sounds like someone's like in those horrid work chats where people are like, "Great job on the opening of the ice cream
Yeah, it
stand,"
really is.
or
It's like a
where everyone's
teams.
home like, I
It's like
ha-
a teams chat.
it's like I have to say something because I want my
Yeah,
job.
I better throw a thumbs up react on this message, otherwise somebody's gonna be upset with me.
Nice job killing the terrorists. Here's a way to go, team. It's really just low end. These people are not quality people. Nothing is serious. It's all influencer stuff. It's all
Well, no, again,
old
this
influencer
is
stuff.
the look, this is the evidence about all of the like DEI stuff, meritocracy stuff. Again, just like being a complete and total smokescreen for corruption and graft, which is really like what this is about. Because I don't know if you saw this, Nate, but over the weekend, Trump was shilling a crypto again on fucking Truth Social,
Do you know the thing about crypto? I'm the biggest
a
anti.
Solana coin or some shit.
I'm
Like,
not saying you're not going to make money on crypto. You will at the expense of other people. That's the point. Like you'll make
if
money.
you're, I mean, yeah, they're just doing they're doing these like rug pull shitcoin scams. But like, anyway, like, the point of what I was trying to say is that objections to DEI and any sort of like, you know, employee that's like where the fact that they were minorities mentioned at all is just like a smokescreen for them to hire like lackeys who will say and do anything for like a crumb of attention and time in front of a camera. Um,
Absolutely. Can I say one thing about crypto and a little caveat or a little
yeah,
detour here?
absolutely.
The other thing about crypto that drives me nuts is that crypto is it's a great way for people to bribe the president. These crypto scams. I mean,
Oh yeah, I
any
mean
foreign
absolutely.
nation could dump money into the crypto, and you don't know who it is or where it's coming
I mean, there
from.
was a guy who had a case before the SEC. He bought the Trump, either the Trump coin that he launched right before the inauguration or the Melania coin. He bought like millions of dollars worth of it or something insane. And then like his case of the SEC got dropped like
It's
within a
just a
week.
great way to I don't know to be corrupt.
And
Uh,
they have this defense of, oh, like it's this the defense is, oh well, they're billionaires, so why would they do corruption?
Listen, I
Which
don't.
is just
I want to say something. I don't understand it either. But there is a disease. No matter how much money you have, you always think you're going to lose it. I've worked for billionaires. I've worked for billionaires directly. I've been on their planes. I've talked to them, and they have told me over and over again they fear nothing more than the torches and pitchforks coming to hold them accountable for their theft. And in so many words, they're always afraid it's all going to collapse. All of them, even the old established ones. So number one, they can never have enough money, and number two, they're just addicted to power, and they rank their self worth based on how much money they have. That's it. How much money they
yeah.
have determines their value as a human being. This cat drives me nuts every time I do this, but I'm not, you know. I don't know. It's like picks this time. I always do
Ours
it.
is being cooperative. She's asleep right now.
Okay, so what does this mean? So who's that guy who's from Louisiana who's like that one senator who's like I don't even know.
Kennedy,
No, that one guy is it Kennedy? The guy who's like
John Kennedy.
he's always like he's
Yes.
like his whole shtick is like he's like unfrozen caveman lawyer. He's like I don't
Well,
know nothing about nothing.
he's like doing the same. So like it's funny, anytime that a black politician with a good education speaks like in AAVE or whatever you want to call it, right wingers will hop out and say, this person went to this college and they
Right,
grew up in this place
right.
and this is all fake. But then John
Code
Kennedy is
switching.
like constantly, doing like a foghorn leghorn impression on the floor of the United
Didn't
States
he go to
Senate with
Cambridge
his
or
like three Harvard degrees.
he's literally the unfrozen. You ever see
Or like he went to Oxford or something. Yeah, and he went to yeah.
Did you see the unfrozen caveman lawyer skit? Are you too young for that from Saturday Night Live? It's a Neanderthal. It's a Neanderthal who's like, as I don't understand your courtrooms or your bright lights. I am just an unfrozen caveman. But if I was a lawyer, and then he goes into an absolutely, so like that's essentially what this guy does. He's like, what do I know down in Louisiana? I don't know nothing about nothing. And then he comes like with a knife and stabs you. But like he was saying, there's no mamas out there like waking up in the middle of the night right now thinking about their boys. No one's worrying about this. And when I'm like, well, they should, And then I saw stupid Tulsi Gabbard. Did you see? They're like, are you TG in this chat? She's like, I'm not going to answer that.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, right? They're saying it's not. So the defense is nothing in there was classified. Now that is kind of, I mean, like on its face, it seems like a complete lie.
It is
Like I
totally.
think any reasonable person, if you ask them, even taking out the stuff that like wasn't in the article, the specific targeting systems and locations of stuff, like even the time and place of an attack being texted to a reporter seems like a huge violation, and that information in and of itself seems like it would be like base level
What about just the
classified, the
policy of,
lowest
what about
level
the
of
feelings about
classified,
Europe?
not top secret, not code word classified, but like the idea that this wasn't even baseline classified it just seems like that information alone seems absurd on its
It's
face.
absurd. And like Trump has one of these very effective phrases that I started to steal because it works. Where it's like everybody knows when but the way he does it is he says everybody knows about something that nobody knows. like
Well, yeah, it's
he'll be like,
everybody knows.
yeah.
Many people are
He'll be like,
saying
everybody knows that this wasn't
everybody's
classified.
saying
And he'll
this.
say it
Yeah.
like 10 times. And by the end of it, I'll be like, was it not classified? But everybody knows this was classified information. These idiots used Signal, which they shouldn't have. Tulsi Gabbard was on there. All these stupid people who don't.
Marco
I need to
Rubio.
say, these are not complicated people. These are not people studying global culture or trying to understand world history and world events. These are people who, if they weren't in Congress, they would have TikTok accounts and be doing dance videos if they were born today. They're not sophisticated people. There's not deep thinkers. They're people who want attention to be on television. I don't
Pete Hegseth would be the new. Do you know who Shoe Nice
know.
is?
Tell me.
Was
Tell me.
he was like a sort of OG like shock YouTuber. He would like eat anything or chug anything,
Oh
and
boy.
he got like really well known for drinking like pounding entire handles of alcohol, and that would definitely be sort of Pete Hegseth's like zone of interest.
I mean, I just listen. I know. uh, We all know that they're idiots and they released this information. I just don't know what else they released. And because of the stuff that JD Vance is saying about Europe, where he's basically showing his hand and how much he hates Europe, God knows why. Do you think anybody in Europe's going to trust us? This is the thing that really scares me. I remember I was running for office and I was on a stage in Geneseo, and the question was, what is the most dangerous threat to mankind? And I remember my answer, because I still believe it. I said, nuclear war. And everyone booed me because they thought the answer should be climate change, which fair enough, okay. But I thought the answer was
Yeah.
nuclear war, and I still think the answer is nuclear war. Because, and especially now, what you're going to, because people, your generation didn't grow up with watching The Day After. Do you know what The Day After is?
Mm-hmm.
Terrifying movie that we all watched as kids. I had nightmares for weeks. We were all afraid of nuclear war, and then for 30 years, 25 years, your generation kind of forgot about nuclear war being a threat. Now, Oppenheimer came out. We're starting to think about it more. But like North Korea could nuclear bomb us at any time. If you're looking around the world right now, all these countries in Europe and South Korea are saying, you know what? We can't rely on the U.S. We need nuclear weapons to protect our sovereignty. Heck, what if Canada?
Yeah.
What if Canada, with their 40,000 troops, suddenly said, you know what? We get University of Toronto. Let's go into high gear with a nuclear weapons program. I mean, I'm not saying they should. I'm saying this is the world we're entering because we're cutting off all of our traditional allies, and now they feel the need to protect themselves. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like, so yes, I think that's undoubtedly gonna happen. Not just militarily, but also with like, I think we're about to get Operation Paperclipped essentially by like any country in the world that gives a damn about scientific advancement. Like you're gonna have American researchers going any like American researcher is gonna end up going to some other country now because there's just like they're devastating the medical research
They're
community.
they're dumping money right now, dumping it in China
Yeah,
into research and development in their universities, and we're cutting. How does that make sense?
and they're complaining about the fact that they say China's beating us in any number of
They're
metrics or
beating
whatever.
us because they have a government that has a long-term view. It is not the best form of government, but our government has a short-term view of the daily media press and daily headlines, and these are not visionary people. And then you have the our government essentially believes there shouldn't be a government. And they're going to sabotage the government until there's nothing left except for what Elon wants is dictators and city states. You ever hear his line about Trump? If Trump doesn't have all full authority, we don't have democracy. We have
Yeah,
bureaucracy.
we don't. Yeah,
What does
yeah,
that
we
even
don't have.
mean?
Yeah, it's well again, and this is like a thing I've been saying, which is that and I saw the All In podcast, right? It's like hosted by all this VC,
Nope.
David Sachs, David Friedberg, Chama, Paula,
Nope.
Paula Patia. It's like I think Mark Andreessen's involved in
Should I
it.
watch it or listen to it?
No, I mean like if you want to know what a bunch of rich guys are, thinking about, worried about. But anyway, they interviewed Howard Letnick, the counter secretary at the White House, and Chamath, who is been a citizen of the U.S. for 5 years, was born in Sri Lanka, moved to Canada with his parents. Yeah, that's it. Has been a U.S. citizen for 5 years. Is Has been on social media saying that that natural born citizens of the United States should have their citizenship stripped of them and be sent to Bukele's, uh, essentially what is like a torture camp, in El Salvador. Uh,
It's like the movie Saw or something. Why?
yeah, and
Lutnick is saying
well,
this.
because you have a collection in addition to Trump, who seems to have like for a long time sort of idolized these like third world tin pot dictators. You have a bunch of rich guys, Kamath from Sri Lanka, David Sachs, who I believe is originally from South Africa, just like Elon. You have a collection of very wealthy men from third world countries who are essentially trying to bring their like tin pot third world country authoritarian dictatorship styles of government to the United States.
This has been the great achievement of the United States has been the middle class. We achieved something that almost no other country ever has. We created the middle class. I was just watching a documentary um, about the national parks, and like we were the pride of the world because unlike other countries where only aristocrats had access to these beautiful places, they were all private. Even Niagara Falls, you used to have to pay. It was all cut up into little private viewpoints that you had to pay to get to. We just decided as a nation we're going to create these public spaces that anybody can have access to. And that was part of a movement in America saying, you know what? Our policy is to tax the rich and to build a society where everybody has a chance at building their own business, of overcoming monopoly. I mean, we've been through this. And the result of it was the last 100 years where we became the strongest nation in the history of the world with endless scientific breakthroughs, where everybody could have a house. And it wasn't perfect, obviously, but we overcame so much as a society in a very short period of time. We went to the moon. We went to the moon. All of this
In a
happened.
hundred in 100 years, we went from a brutal civil war that killed 1 million Americans to being on the moon and completely and totally reshaping the global order in our image, and we're throwing it away for what exactly?
I,
Like it's
for what we
you're just
had.
you're burning down your house, dousing
There,
yourself
if you
in
can
your
go
house
back,
in
you can go
gasoline and
back and read.
lighting yourself on fire.
You can go back and read Dickens. All the Dickens books, basically, they were fighting with this very issue that you had the industrialization, you had all these aristocrats that were suppressing the masses, and it was a bleak society. And our country was the same way. We had the robber barons. People don't even
The
know.
Gilded Age.
People forget. The Gilded Age. What's gilded? Something that's shiny on the outside and just you know just ugly steel on the inside that doesn't have any value. So gilded, and that's what our society is now. Everything in Trump's life is gilded, and so
Yeah,
you
yeah.
had you had these terrible events happen too that people have forgotten about that have been kind of erased by history. For example, in Pittsburgh, the elites built this huge, giant lake for their pleasure boats in Pittsburgh, and it broke, and it flooded the valley below and killed. I don't even know how many people. It was one of the greatest disasters in American history. And it was as the result of very wealthy people exploiting everybody else. And so we went through a period where we rebuilt our society. We said, no, we're going to have everybody involved. We're going to believe in the middle class. And eventually we got to the point where we're like the Great Society of Lyndon Johnson. We're going to believe in equality. We're going to overcome racism. And now we have people like Elon Musk saying, no, no, no. I like it the way it was 150 years ago, where guys like us had endless freedom. Guys like like Epstein, you could build your own island and live by your own rules,
Yeah.
and that's what they want. I mean, they're not being, shifty about it. They're very open. They want that world, and little toadies like JD Vance are happy to give it to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. That's the thing. There was a tweet a couple weeks ago that said, like, why did the left stop dreaming about space colonization or X, Y, and Z, whatever thing? And like, the number one is like, I think it's probably like not realistic. Um, but B, it's because if you look at what space colonization exploration looks like as a result of like decades of underfunding organizations like NASA and like the rise of the private space industry, is that anything like space colonization is going to look a lot more like Elysium and a lot less like Star Trek.
Right. I think
Um,
Elysium's an underrated
and
movie.
and yeah, I agree. I haven't watched it in years, but and I think they want to get as close to that here on Earth, in an effort to get them, sort of to that, and not in a literal sense, but it does seem like this desire to. I mean, Trump is sort of fetishistically obsessed with William McKinley and this whole tariff thing, and it's like, what happened? Like, what happened 25 years after McKinley was shot? And, a little more than 25 years, but you know the Great Depression ends up happening, a couple decades after that. And that's after still 20, 20, 30 years of a completely and totally stratified society with a ton of people living in abject poverty, child labor, and all sorts of other stuff.
So I'm not trying to talk about it here because we've talked about it before in other podcasts and my frustrations with the Democratic Party. It's hard to talk about the Democratic Party, even though they're totally inept, when you have Pete Hegseth using Signal to share war plans with the Atlantic. But I got to say, it is heartening to see Bernie Sanders and AOC draw tens of thousands of people. And neither of these people, this is the thing I want to tell everybody, there are no saviors. Bernie's not perfect. Neither is AOC. They will disappoint you. They'll say things you don't like. But that's how it's supposed to work. But their overall message is so uplifting and on point. And the Democratic Party missed their opportunity in 2016. And I pray that there's enough people to say, hey, we need to change our DNA. We need the party of the working class. Can I say, I'm going to take it a step further. Can I take it a step further? Because I've been talking about this working class stuff for years, and it really drives me nuts now.
Yeah, speak on it.
Well, now I see these Democrats suddenly who were very much singing a different tune just 6 months ago. Now they're trying to pretend they're like wannabe progressives. And they're like, well, we've always said we're for the working class. I'm like, kinda, not really. You didn't. You kind of vilified anybody who came from a populist perspective from the left. I mean, you made populism a bad word. It was only, you equated populism with fascism. And what populism means is that plain things of the working people should be respected and that the concerns of the working people should be respected. That doesn't have to be a right-wing stance. Anyway, where they should go next, however, is, and you may disagree with me and I'd love to hear your thoughts, or maybe you will agree with me because we do agree on a lot of these things. Yes, fight for the working people, but people are individuals. And if you look at every single song from the working class, the songs I grew up with, the Bruce Springsteen songs, the Bob Seger songs, they're about the man against the machine. Nobody wants to be part of the Borg. Collective identity is not, it doesn't get anybody excited. We need to be the party of the individual. And that doesn't mean we're the anti-government party. We're the party that says, hey, you can love who you want. You can build your business. We're going to help you. We're going to give you the infrastructure and the system that creates the chance for you to do these things. I think about that Bob Seger song, I Feel Like a Number. Maybe think it's a corny song, but it used to inspire me as a kid when I was a working class kid, when I had to do cruddy jobs. And I used to think, I don't want to be a number. I don't want to be a data line in Elon Musk's data or in some stupid corporation's data line. I'm an individual. I want to be an artist. I want to love who I want to love. I want to make a family. And the Democratic Party needs to be about that spirit. I don't want us to be the party that hates small business. I don't want us to be the party that the guys with the pickup trucks, the contractors, the people that own salons, they look to us because they know they can rely on us to get things done, to allow them to fulfill their dreams. We don't, I think the collective speech, the Borg mentality, we need to remove that from our DNA and say, hey, we're about individuals and empowering individuals to be strong. That may mean union membership, but it also may mean that we need to get rid of the bureaucracy that allows your little business to compete with the big guys. And that's what I think. I think we need to empower the individual and be the party of freedom. Your thoughts, if any. And you don't have to answer if you don't want to.
No, yeah, I'm just taking a second to. I want to take in everything that you said. No, I think that there is a lot of truth in what you said. Um, you know, I think there's like a certain amount of I think, like you said, we have talked about this obviously before, but I think there's a an over intellectualization of a lot of issues that I think frankly like don't I don't know I maybe they don't they're not achieving the goals aren't maybe best served by having them as part of the political debate, which I think is like the important sort of delineation, right? I think like the truth is if you talk to like 90% of people for if you can talk to somebody for 30 minutes about like something like critical theory or whatever, they'll kind of come away with an understanding, be like, yeah, like I kind of see where you're coming from on this. Most people, even I think a conservative, you actually like sit down and talk to them, or you can like drill down with them on like the reality of what DEI really is or whatever. Um, but the problem is that's like sort of academic conversation that like doesn't work well in politics. And I think I don't want to be anti-collective because I don't think to be I don't think speaking to individuals or empowering the individual requires an abandonment of a certain type of collective thinking or collective identity. I do think that there is a need, like in the Democratic Party, certainly to um, I don't want to say run away from identity politics, especially, or anything like that. But I do think that there's a need for there to be like a rallying toward a sort of like higher level identity that's above the sort of like your nearest like social group that you
I mean, listen,
jump
I
to,
don't know.
right?
I don't know these things because I mean I don't experience the world. I'm not going to say I experience the world the same way you do or any person of color does, including my own children. There are different challenges, and we obviously have different experiences. And there is racism in the world. I just heard Charles Barkley say there is racism in the world. We have to know that, but everyone has to wake up and realize both political parties are letting us down, and the biggest problem is rich versus poor. And I think that is the key selling point. If I see he's right. If you can get it down to something simple, the real division in America today or the world today is the elite, the powerful, the rich versus the poor. And the idea that you're ever going to be as rich as Elon Musk because you work hard is a joke. You're lying to yourself. And we need to have that conversation, but I also think we need to have a conversation to say, listen, we're not here to take away your freedom or to preach to you or to put a government over you. We want to give you a government that helps you be all you can be. And I
Yeah,
think
I agree with that. I mean, again, I think that there's like a really like, and I think Kamala tried to do this um, to a certain extent in her campaign. I just think, again, I really think she was just hamstrung by having too short of a runway. Um, but I think that there is a need for us, particularly now in the like post Trump inauguration world, to start calling on our like American values and start like
absolutely.
leaning into leaning into patriotism. And I think we all kind of got like swept up into a lot of um a lot of stuff, and everybody's posted stuff on socials that they may not agree with today, certainly in one direction or another. Um, but I remember, was it last year or 2 years ago? I was marching in a parade or something like that, and like somebody said something to me that was about like, not saying the national anthem or not, waving an American flag or whatever. And I think like, even if you are a person who like truly in your, sort of like theoretical brain hates America, I disagree. But more importantly, like politically, it's not a winner, right? Like politically,
Well,
it's not a
listen, I
winner.
remember at the March for Our Lives rally, I went on the stage. I had to speak last. I was running for Congress, and I had to listen to all these people just get up there and scream. And I'm just going to make fun of the people who speak for a second, because a lot of these local politicians, they do this thing where it starts off and it's like very much the Howard Dean. It's like, da, 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 da. They just keep getting louder, and by the end they're just screaming, and it's like, whoa. Anyway, I got up there and I gave what I thought was a thoughtful speech, and I said, and there was a veteran guy next to me, and I said, can I take your flag? And he said, yes. So I took his flag, and I said, listen, this is our flag too. We need to take it back. And I'm
Mhm.
sorry, the crowd booed me. Not everybody, but people in the crowd booed me. And then the woman that was one of the organizers of the event, took me aside and said, they will never let me speak at an event again because I put up that horrible flag of oppression. And I thought, dear Lord, I'm in the wrong party. And I'm going to say one more thing. I've always gotten along really good with MAGA people offline. Literally, I mean, like even today, I was representing somebody the other day. They're complete Trump people, but they're like, how come you're so nice in person, Nate? And I'm like, because we probably have a lot in common, but I just don't believe the stupid stuff you guys fall for. And then when I was running for office, you may remember, like these hardcore right-wing people would call me and say, we want you to run as a Republican. I'm like, how can I run as a Republican? I believe in abortion. And they're like, those Democrats are never going to accept you. We would embrace you. And I'm like, I mean, whether it was just a ruse to get me to be stupid and get out of the race or whatever else, I've always gotten along well with Republicans, maybe because I'm a white guy who grew up in, suburbs of Buffalo. I don't know. Maybe it's just, that's my code switching. But
Well,
I,
yeah, I mean, I think that's probably true. And I mean, like, um, you know, most people, um, I think like, most people who are American don't, most people who live in any country are patriotic to a certain degree, whether you want to be nationalistic or patriotic, or, maybe I'm, uh, some people would say I'm splitting hairs or whatever. But I do think that there is, and I think, again, this is the thing I liked about Biden's campaign was that, and I think we probably need to keep leaning into that direction. And it's funny you talk about the red, white, and blue and the American flag. When I ran for council, I had a person who told me that the fact that my logo was red, white, and blue
oh
might
my God, your
like
logo was the best.
put some people off.
Your logo was the best. And I'm
It was
just going to
pretty
say it.
solid.
I think a lot of people seeing that logo, for someone who's a progressive, for me personally, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was right on point, perfect. I thought a lot of it's so annoying, by the way, just for your listeners out there. Matt had some really creative ads when he ran for city council. And it was so disheartening to see those establishment politicians vilify him and then literally take the same ads and do them worse the week later. Like the complete, no, there's no originality, no vision. Listen, that stuff drives me crazy. When Kristen Gillibrand started using "Fight Like Hell," and then Kathy Hochul started using "Fight Like Hell."
Now every damn Democrat here.
Now, well, listen, okay. When I put "Fight Like Hell" on my signs, I'm sorry to be such a jerk about this.
It was people did act like you were. I remember people acted like you were crazy.
They didn't act like I was crazy. They called me to Democratic offices and they said I was an embarrassment to the party.
We won't put that up. We won't. We can't put that up. It's a curse word.
No, they said that I was a fool. So, then the next time I ran, I was like, I'm going to go harder. I'm going to go hell yeah. But then I was afraid people would say hell no. So I didn't do it. But like,
I mean, honestly, smart.
Yeah, but what I ended up doing is going so far the other direction because everyone stole the Fight Like Hell. I mean, remember when Kristen Gillibrand came to my office? She's like, "I love the Fight Like Hell thing," and I'm like, "Cool." And then 2 weeks later, it was on our website, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "I guess," but then Fight Like Hell is so then I was like, "Do good, be good," but that didn't really work. I was trying to be positive, but
Well, you're listen. You started you're ahead of the, because that was the how Josh Allen signed off his MVP speech. Do good, be good. God bless, go Bills.
is that what he said? Do good,
Uh,
be good.
do good, be good. God bless, and go
Oh,
Bills.
well,
That
listen,
was his like.
I thought it was positive, but people were like, we missed the Fight Like Hell guy. I'm like, I'm not the least.
Well, yeah, and I do think that again, like you and I and the people who worked on those campaigns, and I don't say it out of like I don't say it out of ego or anything, like obviously we were crazy enough to try it. But I think just purely because we were there and were interacting with folks like that, that like we did kind of see
Yes.
the sort of that latent populist energy, the anti-establishment stuff. Obviously, Trump had already happened, but
Not the way he's
the
happened now. He was still evolving. He was a nascent Trump.
yeah, and clearly Biden was able to do something different, and I think showed the limits in some ways of like democratic governance, and then it just like takes forever to if you want to do shit. It's very cutting, as we can see. It takes 2 months to like trick people into thinking you've saved them a bunch of money in their taxes by like line iteming, cutting a bunch of grants and stuff, and that's easy to do. It's like really hard to build a bridge. It's like really hard to build a train. It's hard to build a new water treatment plant, like the kind of shit that Biden tried to do.
He was a good president.
Unfortunately, like we'll see the results in
He was a terrible judgment not to run again. He said he wasn't going to. I thought that Kamala I don't want to get off topic too much, but Kamala was an incredible debater. That was the best debate performance I've ever seen. The only one to ever take it to Trump. She kind of pierced Trump's invincibility at that moment. But she didn't. She did what Democrats do. She didn't go on television. I mean, again, I hate to go back to my old campaign. It was a long time ago at this point, but you remember, because like they wanted me to go on CNN and all this stuff, and I didn't know. And my campaign manager kept it away from me because she thought it was in the interest of the campaign to keep a low profile and not to screw things up. And when I thought of that, when I saw her not going on,
Cuomo prime time, man.
yeah, well, yeah, I saw her not going on Joe Rogan. I'm like, why wouldn't she go on Joe Rogan? I don't think she should go
Well,
on.
I think we learned later that there was some. Uh, it seemed like Rogan was playing the.
Oh, I see.
He was constantly moving the ball um, around.
He's an idiot.
Yeah, yeah, but I do think like Tim Walz has been out the past couple weeks, and I think he's said as much that the sort of leaks that came out of the campaign shortly after, where they had like saying that they had muzzled him or told him to stop using certain messages and things like that.
He was the only
I
one who
think you're
made.
right. I think
I saw I saw that Rogan was bashing Tim Walz the other day, saying, "Oh, he's such a tough guy. I don't, can he says he can beat a truck? Can he fix a truck? Well, Joe, can you fix a truck? Listen, I remember when I was like, I don't know, I said something about I'll fight somebody once, and this muscular steroid dude, he's like, I'll fight you. So I said, okay, let's fight, and I sent him a DM. I said, you want to fight? Let's put it on TV. Let's
oh
see.
yeah, I remember
And
this.
he immediately backed down. Like immediately, he's like, "Oh, I never said that. We should be friends." And I was like, "Okay, well, if you want to fight, here's my number." So I mean, like, not that
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
the
Tim Walz like is like, oh, I can probably beat one of these guys up, which is like, again,
stupid,
it's like,
but tempting to say, right?
yeah, it's like you don't say that as like a politician, but like there are a lot of like kind of like there are a lot of guys like him in the Midwest who they're just like they'll talk to you about, like talk to like a union guy, to like a liberal union guy about like somebody like Donald Trump or like a MAGA supporter, talk to like a guy in like the CWA or, a UAW guy who who is like a solid Democratic voter, and like the second thing out of his mouth will be like, "These guys act tough, and like I could beat any, I'd whoop all their
Well,
ass." How
who's
many times do we hear? How many times do we hear that from union guys when we were running in
all the
18 and
time?
20 about how they, yeah, all the time, right? Like it's just like a, you know,
Something
it's like
guys
a
say.
the critique of like Democrats is always like, oh, they're too practiced, they don't act like real people, and then when they act like real people, obviously you're like going to be under a right wing microscope. Today, Jasmine Crockett referred to Greg Abbott, esteemed governor of the state of Texas, as Hot Wheels.
Is he not? Is he in a wheelchair?
He is in fact a wheelchair
I
user,
like her too, by the way.
and she said that she was talking about him, because Abbott is like the reason why a lot of these big cities appear in these big like blue cities have a ton of migrants that have come in over the past couple of years is because Abbott has like shipped all of them on buses up to New York and Chicago. And she said it was about all the planes, trains, and automobiles that he uses to move the migrants, which, like, whatever. Obviously, like, ableism is not cool, or obviously, like,
You
no
think
ifs,
this?
ands,
Do
or
you think
buts.
that she
But,
hates
like,
people?
also, like, the difference between Democrats and Republicans is, like, at least 6 months ago, like, every Democrat would have been tripping over themselves, to, would have been sort of tripping over themselves to criticize her. I really don't think anybody. I think everybody's going to be like, "That's obviously not what she meant," and move on. And the Republicans are going to censure her, or going to attempt to censure her in the Congress probably tomorrow.
Look at
Meanwhile, Elon Musk is simultaneously leading a cabinet meeting and calling multiple people the R word on Twitter.
listen. We have to get less sensitive to people making little faux pas. Nobody wants a mean person. Nobody wants to be a bully. We don't want to foster a bully culture. Again, I hate you. This is the reason why I keep talking about when I ran for office or when you ran for office is because we have those shared experiences. I
For sure.
cannot emphasize how horrible it was for me to have every single Republican telling me, "Oh my God, you kicked Jacob's butt. Holy cow, you let him have it in that debate. I never saw anything like that." And then to have all the Democrats telling me, "Why were you so mean? Why we like the my biggest problem I had running the second time is they wanted me to be the fight like hell guy, the guy from my first campaign to be kind of outrageous, but they also all kind of wanted me to be nice Nate and like walk around with a nice shirt on and like say hi and shake hands because I was kind of both people. But the second campaign, I wasn't allowed to kind of be myself. I had to be like nice guy. And then when people saw me fighting, they didn't really want it. The Democrats were not comfortable with it. They wanted me to run a nice campaign and be a gentleman. And I not the union guys. And again, the Republicans were impressed that someone had a backbone. I think our party has to be a little bit less sensitive. Doesn't mean that we have to be bullies, but we have to be a little bit less sensitive and be a little tougher. I just think the whole party needs a DNA change. I mean, our value
I
system.
think you're right. I think it's happening. I think we see that there's like an intra party sort of realignment happening that's less constrained in the ideological left right sense, but it really seems to be more of like a uh stylistic difference when it comes to how you choose to respond to what's going on right now. AOC and Connor Lamb are, on the same side, sort of in their critique of John Fetterman, and other Democrats who, voted for the continuing resolution bill a couple weekends ago. But yeah, I think that's happening. I think it'll continue to
So
happen,
what
and
about
I think
Fetterman? Fetterman's style is working class. He's popular, isn't he, in his district? I think he
he's
is.
pretty he is pretty popular in Pennsylvania. I think you'll find that. I think in the party now, he's going to have. I think Pennsylvania Democrats probably will have a lower opinion of partisans anyway. Probably won't like um, the vote. But I don't know. I haven't.
I
The
think
truth is, I don't want to speak on it. I haven't looked. I'm sure that there's a poll that's been out there, or probably will come out soon,
so.
that like tests different Democratic, uh, you know, swing state senators in their states based on those votes. I just haven't seen anything about it
So
yet.
so I think I want to get off this whole Democratic Party thing. We could talk all night about
Yeah.
it, but I want to say about Fetterman, I think he's a jerk, and I think his style comes across as creepy and weird, not impressive. It doesn't have any kind of like I don't aspire to be John Fetterman. If the goal here is to make your leaders be weird, and that therefore you can relate to them because they're weird, fine. I do think that most of this stuff is about style, and that the party, the Democratic Party, really did not have a sense of style. It did not have its finger on the zeitgeist or its finger on the pulse of America, and they lost because they don't realize how people talk now, how they communicate, how they use social media. I think human beings, I say it all the time, we are the only animals that can communicate around stories, and that's why we can organize into massive cities, unlike baboons or tigers or whatever else. All animals can communicate, but only human beings can communicate with stories, and our stories are what connect and bind us. The Democratic Party has better policy. They have way worse storytellers. They don't know how to tap into the zeitgeist anymore. They've lost that storytelling.
I think we have good storytellers. I just think they're not the people who have been
Fair
um
enough. Yes.
yeah, yeah, I think like I think the way to sum a lot of it up is that like there's a culture in politics that exists on both sides where it's like you pay your dues, you're owed things, you're owed prominence, you're owed leadership, you're owed a lot of these things. And AOC went out for House Oversight Committee chair, and her campaign for it was killed, and
They
Jerry
crushed her.
Connolly Jerry Connolly was placed as the oversight chair. Now,
Dear Lord.
Congressman Connolly is a respected member of Congress. Um, I have no like doubt about that. I have no real, as like a legislator, I don't know enough about him. I have nothing really bad to say about the congressman, other than that, I think in this moment, your House Oversight Chair, AOC knows how to do stuff in Congress.
He's
She
74 years
clearly, if you watch
old.
it, yeah, if you watch a video of AOC in a session, she clearly knows the rules, how to use different points of order and stuff like that to trip up her colleagues who are doing stuff the wrong way. Clearly, she's like adept enough as a legislator to do the job in that committee. And as a spokesperson, she's just far better. Connolly, I
So
think, has
much
been on
better.
TV twice in the last month. Imagine if AOC was doing these rallies with Bernie and she was the House
Oh my!
Oversight
Imagine if
Committee chairwoman.
we never see her
You
on
know,
TV. Honestly, we see her on TV only when she's at these rallies. She never gets to be on TV. Okay, let me just switch. We get to go on. I want to get onto this next subject.
there was a
Go
good
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
segue probably 30 minutes ago when you were talking about JD Vance's texts about his sort of hatred of Europe.
Yeah.
Um, and, and I think that could dovetail well to our
Discussion of what's going on in
JD and Usha go to Greenland.
which is crazy. They're gonna go to Greenland. They're gonna go tour a dog race. They could have done it in Alaska, but they're gonna go there. I mean, they could have probably done it at some place in Maine. I'm guessing. I don't know. I've been to dog sledding. It's fun as heck. So they're. I mean, basically, we're going to take Greenland. I mean, there's 50,000 people there. It's like less than the city. Like it's about the size of the city of North Tonawanda, right? There's nobody there. We already have military there. Denmark's not going to stop us. Nobody's going to stop us. So we're going into the era of neocolonialism. We're just taking this territory. And I mean, I don't know how we're going to get it. Am I wrong? I don't know how it ends. I think that
No,
whether we
I
take
don't think
Canada
so.
or not, we're definitely taking Greenland, it looks like.
I think you're right. It's only a matter of time, and I think the if you followed some of the news from the previous weekend, the U.S. is he like the special envoy for the Russia-Ukraine war. Last name's Witkoff. He was out on the Sunday shows, just wholesale parroting like 8-year-old Russian talking points,
I saw
seemingly,
that
and
about Ukraine.
he said, "Oh, well, these territories, they they want to be part of Russia. They voted and they wanted to be part of Russia. Keep in mind those referenda were, disputed by pretty much any independent monitoring agency. Clearly, there were, massive instances of ballot stuffing. The territory was occupied, for God's sake, by like, Russian paramilitaries. And it's clear that the mindset that Putin used for Greenland, or for, sorry, Putin used for Ukraine, it doesn't entirely apply because Putin used this like straight up, Hitlerian blood and soil argument. That's which is the real reason why he's doing this. Um, Trump is going to use the same strategy, which is seemingly to. We already have military bases there. I think part of JD's excuse for going is that there's a or sorry, a Space Force installation or something there as well. And we're gonna just put a bunch of folks there and they'll have a fake vote where they say they want to join the US. They'll be fast tracked to become a state, and then the Republicans will probably bus in a shit ton of right wingers to turn it into another two solid Republican Senate
Whoa,
seats.
I've never
And
I've never
uh,
been there. I've been to Iceland a couple times, which is not that far away. It's one of the most beautiful places in the whole world. It's so gorgeous. Sorry. I mean, I would love to go to Greenland as a tourist, not as a conqueror.
I
You
mean,
know what I mean?
again,
It's like,
like
what are we doing?
if the Greenlanders were petitioning the U.S.
Yeah,
government
right,
to be part of the U.S. government, I would say, like, okay, maybe it's something that we should talk about, but like, A, we have several territories that like we need to deal with their legal
right.
status before we start thinking about adding others anyway. I think like if you've been a territory for a long time and people want to join, you should be, we got DC and Puerto Rico. Now, DC clearly wants to be a state. Puerto Rico, I know that it's like seems like it's a real kind of coin flip between being a state, remaining a territory, and becoming an independent country. Um, but like ultimately, if they wanted to, ultimately the answer I would give if it was like state or no, and they asked, I'd be like, yeah, sure, why not? I
Yeah,
don't really
me
care that
too.
much.
But I can tell you from people I know who've been to Greenland, they don't want to be a state. They want to have their own
No,
independent culture
yeah, they
celebrated.
want to be their own country,
Right. They don't want to be
which
part. They don't
like
want to be part of Denmark anymore, which is understandable. And they don't want to be anything else. They're like, listen, we have resources here. There's opportunity here. This is our land, and that makes sense to me. And like, so it is a territory of Denmark, which is our ally. Again, just goes back to the rule of law. You're breaking the law. I know you think. Listen, my neighbor might have a really nice bike. I might have really good reasons to have that bike. It may make a lot of sense for me to have that new bike, but it isn't my bike. And just because I'm stronger than my neighbor doesn't mean I can take the bike. I mean, this is like common sense, normal standards. If we're only in a world now where the strong get to do whatever they want, God help us. God help us. And to that point, honestly, if I could choose, I'm just going to say it, as a two-time congressional candidate, if I could choose to be part of Canada, I probably would say, cool, take over Western New York. We'd love to have healthcare here. We'd love to have some of the social benefits that the Canadians have. We already have a shared culture anyway. If we're talking about annexation, maybe we should talk about the other way around.
yeah, I mean, I I certainly would be up for more, integration between the two countries if that's something that could be done, But I
If they
think
choose
like,
it.
yeah, yeah, but I also think like, not every landmass has to be, like it's okay for there to be different nations. Like I think that's okay.
There sure
I'm not
is.
and certainly like the people of Greenland, just like the people in Ukraine or the people in Israel and Palestine. Every national group has a right. We've decided they all have a right to self-determination. The Greenlanders do, just like any other any other nation, and it's unfortunate. And I think there is a um, as we, and again, this is like all obviously speculation, but it certainly seems like the logical next step. This is just, a sort of another test of the waters, sort of, and we'll see how they respond. But it does feel like an inevitability that it's going to happen in some way, shape, or form, and it's really a question of like, what do we do as
The
people?
annexation of Canada
Um,
seems like an inevitability.
no, no, Greenland certainly seems like
Okay.
an inevitability.
God, I hope not,
Uh,
but I think you're probably right. I don't know how they stop it. They have no
Canada,
military.
I think it's tough because
I think
you
there
know,
would be foreign powers that would fight us over Canada.
yeah, but I also think like the thing about Greenland is there's really nobody between us and them. And yes, the Canadians have a small military, but the thing is, they also have like there are big cities between the people and the resources for like with the exception of, like Alberta, I get, the prairie states. But like if you want anything from, way up north, if you're gonna get it, I guess you could, how are you gonna get up there, build an infrastructure up there while you have this like massive force of, people who are gonna be in open rebellion seemingly. Greenland only has 50,000 people. Canada has what, 30 million?
40 million. I read
40
this.
million.
I just listen. It's funny how these issues go in circles. I mean, it seemed I thought that Democrats were the open borders people. Democrat now,
Right, right, well, right.
and the sovereignty and the protecting of sovereignty. And I guess it doesn't matter anymore as long as we take somebody else's stuff. But I read
If we
this.
take somebody else's stuff and they're white, it's
I read this book. I love it. It's called Borderlines. I cannot recommend it enough. It is a history of Europe told from the edges, and it is beautiful. I read it this year. It is by a very famous British historian called Lewis Baston. It is probably the best book I read to understand Europe history and borders and how they flexed and changed so dramatically over the last few years. And it can't help but think of Canada and when I was a kid. And I'm old enough to remember when I used to go to Canada without a passport, without anything. I think it was a quarter to cross the border over at the Rainbow Bridge in Niagara Falls. And I think the Peace Bridge was free. I would just walk across as a 12-year-old. And so I know most of that is enforcement by the U.S. after 9/11. And I wish we had more interaction. I would love, I keep saying it, I'd love to get on a train in Buffalo and go to Toronto. But to suppress, part of the reason why I love Canada is because of the unique Canadian spirit. I love Canada because it's different. And I love the culture of Canada. And I love to learn about Canada. I love to recognize the Canadian state, the provincial parks, and go to the provincial parks. It is a different feeling than the United States. And in some ways, an undeniably better feeling. There are parts of Canada, I'm not going to name cities, but you can go to cities in Canada that are pretty bad. I mean, I don't think Americans realize how small the Canadian economy is. And I've been to parts of Canada that just seem, I mean, like the developing world almost. I mean, just with white people. It's not as prosperous as you might think, but there are points of absolute beauty. And I think what they've done there is they've developed a social structure and a social safety net where there's a kindness in the society. There's not this like fierce dog eat dog desperation that we have in the United States. And like there's also a culture there that celebrates their unique history, which is different than the United States history. It is more connected to the UK. That is kind of fun to learn about and be part of. That is nothing like America. But before I transfer over to you, I want to say one more thing. I do think it is strange that Trump is considering becoming part of the Commonwealth. And I don't know what that means for this whole Canada discussion. I mean, obviously the guy is royalty obsessed and he wants to get some title because he's too stupid to realize the royalty is a bad thing and we don't like kings in America. And I saw a quote online that said, geez, King George really played the long game here. But what is this about now? Is this just a way to calm him down and say, oh, you don't got to take Canada because you're now part of the Commonwealth, just like Canada? Is that what's happening? Is this some kind of
Yeah, I think part of it is that like he's stupid and he doesn't know what it means.
so he
This
just
is like a dumb guy. Like this is a non-intelligent human being that we're dealing
I
with. I
think
literally just think this is the guy who's still saying, "Oh, they're sending people from mental institutions and asylums," and you know what I mean. He's,
I think England is in a tough position. Their economy's broke, and I think I could be overthinking this, but I think they might be thinking, if we can take over, if we can be aligned with the United States, even with this psychotic change there, it might be in our best long-term interest, especially if they're part of us, our thing, as opposed to them taking parts of our thing. I think this is what it might be about. And because Trump is so stupid, he's like, oh yeah, I want to be part of royalty. I want a title. I want to be the Grand
it could be.
Duke
It
of.
could be. I just think he's dumb and doesn't really know. He's like Commonwealth.
Oh, the glorious England.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's literally just that deep.
God, there are parts that there. If you read
I
that
want
book,
wealth to be common. Wouldn't that be great, folks? We're in the Commonwealth.
I,
Now everyone's rich. Believe me, many
who
people are saying this.
I think that book
Um,
Fiona Hill. Who is she? Fiona Hill, is that her name, or am I thinking of Fiona as somebody else? Fiona Hill. She was the one. Oh, she wrote a book. I think it's called. I think it was Fiona Hill. It was called "There's Nothing Here for You Now," and it was about the
I'm not
poverty.
sure.
I think it was her. She was about the poverty in her growing up, and I felt a lot of kinship for her reading it about the poverty of her growing up. And her father said to her in rural England, "There's nothing here for you. Get out, escape." And she came to the United States, and she testified against Trump at his first or second impeachment. I can't remember. Um,
Oh, yes, 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 yes.
but the idea that Trump is saying that, the Commonwealth, they have a lot of money because of the jewels of the Queen, this kind of perspective.
I don't even know if it's deeper than if it's that deep or if it's literally like the word wealth is in it, so he thinks it's good.
I don't want to laugh, but it's got to be true. I mean, there's some truth to what you're saying. He's an idiot. He
I mean,
wasn't.
if you just like listen to the way he talks, it just like it. Again, I don't know. I can't read the guy's mind, but like it wouldn't shock me
Everybody who's
if
dealt
it
with
was
him,
really
who's
like
honest, says he's a complete idiot. He's a complete
if
idiot.
it was really that deep. But no, I liked what you said about Canada, and I think that's true. I think like you said, I think if it was just another, if it was just another state or whatever, it wouldn't have been cool to like go to Blue Jays games or go to Algonquin.
But at the
Like
same
it
time,
would have been less cool.
we had Blue Jays games in Buffalo for a reason. We had Toronto Raptors training camp here for a reason. There is some shared identity in Buffalo. That's why I
Yeah, I
said,
mean, the Bills are the most popular football team in Canada.
oh, if
Like,
you go to Toronto, there's Josh Allen jerseys everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. I mean, they love it. I mean, I don't understand why people in Buffalo don't love the Raptors more. I mean, that's weird to me that they don't embrace them. They kind of
I think like the NBA is just
not
not
popular here.
as big. It's just not as big.
They
Yeah.
do they do embrace the rivalry with the Maple Leafs, and they do to some
Hmm.
extent. In some extent, they embrace the Blue Jays. I think, but the rest of it, no.
Yeah.
I mean, listen,
Yeah. I think that's true, and I think like again, like it would have been, if like I'm going to Toronto, okay, like I get Toronto's a big city, but it wouldn't, like going to Toronto, it's cool because it's Toronto, it's like well,
sure. Look, I remember you
it's
and
different. It's like, and the idea that they speak English despite the fact that they're a bilingual state. Trump says, "Oh, they're basically the same as us." I mean, again, like I know the liberals up there are very happy that. I mean, they're not happy, but like
I,
politically,
I'm
he's
a
absolutely.
I'm gonna admit it. I'm gonna be the first to admit it. I'm a Canada file. I love Canada. I
Are
know
you?
I know every single nook and cranny of Toronto and its outskirts. I know all the restaurants. I'm the first one to go when they open a new restaurant in Niagara. I'm the first one to go. I could tell you. I could just rattle off. I just went to the Fat Rabbit in St. Catharines. Holy cow! I got to go to that. I keep talking about Rizzo House of Parham in Fort Erie. But I mean, I go up there all the time. I've been to all, I've not all, I've been to most of the provincial parks camping. I have been all, I could just go on all day. I'm like, I love Canada. I love the fact that I lived close to Canada. If I didn't live close to Canada, I wouldn't live in Buffalo. I'm be honest with you. If I didn't have the border here and the water and the shared identity, I'm so nuts about Canada. I'm not afraid to admit it. I took Drake's side in the
Oh no. Oh,
I
okay.
was
No,
mad.
we're not doing that. Um, but yeah, and it's that presents some like real. I don't see how that's possible. I just don't see how that
I
is
hope not.
possible.
I hope we have
The
better
Greenland
ties.
one,
But
I think is I'd be interested on looking. I want to look right now. Let's look at the poly market at odds.
I don't know what is that. I don't even know what that is. This is why I talk
It's
to
where you can
Matt.
like bet. You can like bet on anything.
Oh wow, what are the
Okay.
odds?
Well, let's see. There are a bunch of different markets, but will Trump acquire Greenland in 2025? I'm going to say is probably the odds are pretty low. This has it as a 10% chance for in 2025. I'd like to see one that's like by the end of his first term because like I would say like by the end of his first term is like 90%
Is no.
of I that's what I think. I can't find it. I can't find any odds online right now, but I if I were thinking I'm like I think it's almost
So let me
certainly gonna happen.
let me switch here. We're all worried about what's happening. By the way, I'm having an event on April 26th. I'm not having an event. I'm working with a group from the Prescott Bridge in North County, in the North Country, up in Canada, over by the Thousand Islands, and they're going to do an event where they meet and gather, and they're going to. We're not sure what it's going to actually be. We're probably going to have speakers. A lot of people ask me to have a town hall, and I'm like, I'm not having a town hall. I'm like, please have a town hall, and like, everyone's like, why would I have a town hall? It's the last thing I want to do. I'm not running for office. People are just going to yell at me for it. But then people are like, please do it. So I was like, all right, I will help organize it if someone else is doing it. So a group came to me from the North Country and they said, we're going to do this thing. We're going to show support for Canada. Now, what does that mean exactly? I don't know, but I think people feel like they want to do something and maybe be with like-minded people. So I'm organizing it. It may be a couple.
It's cool.
So we're gonna meet at the Peace Bridge, at the bottom of the Peace Bridge, and we're gonna show our support by raising Canadian flags. I read today that in Ellicottville, the ski country down here, where there's tons of Canadians, they're all selling their property. I saw that in the
Really?
local news this morning. But let's switch, my friend, to the last subject because I'm half asleep, and I could talk to you forever, but like I got other family issues and stuff. The other thing I want to talk to you about is I want to talk about the rule of law. So let me just go a little preamble here. So, I'm thinking about it this morning. The Nazis burned people alive, right? They destroyed Europe. They were monsters, literal monsters with skulls on their jackets. And we gave them trials and lawyers and judges. But we're now so fragile that we're not going to give a trial to some guy with a supposed gang tattoo. And one of the guys was allegedly he had a Manchester United tattoo, and we put it in
Real Madrid.
Real Madrid. Whatever. It's insane that our country now is the country of no trials. Judge Dredd. You ever see Judge Dredd?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like the cop says you're guilty and you're guilty. It's just like it should terrify everybody, but people are like, yeah, get those gang members out of here. But what if they're not gang members? What if there's somebody's son that just is like, wait a second, I just liked a shaved head. I just
Well, and so there's an article published in the Miami Herald earlier today that one of these people cleared a U.S. background check and a refugee application in another country, came to the States after clearing the background check, and ICE or CBP in the States saw his tattoos and locked him up, and he ended up getting deported. So he had already cleared a background check, had come in legally, had legal refugee status, and was deported. And the response from I've been calling him Tom the CBP, whatever the fuck his name, whatever his title is, the guy
yeah,
who's been
don't
out on
swear. I
TV
noticed
who
that
sounds.
TikTok was banning your videos because of that.
Oh, okay, well, I
No, sorry.
won't.
Sorry.
Bleep me out.
Yeah, I will.
This guy Homan, I call him Tom Hodor because I think he has about the same IQ and talks about the same. He sounds like he's got marbles in his mouth. Um, his response to when he's asked about due process is, "Where was Laken Riley's due process? Where were all these other
Oh my God.
women who were,
But
harmed by
but we're
these
the
TVA
government. We're
members and
not the
MS-13
killer.
members? Well, right, yeah, we hold our government to a higher standard than that. But also, Laken Riley's killer got due process. He was tried and convicted and is in jail,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
And
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 maybe
the idea that that is a response to due process, to people not getting due process. Again, this is not like, I know I said earlier we need to like harken back to our American values, and it's true. I do think what Joe Biden said is right, that like America truly is like a unique nation in the history of the world, and that it is the first country that was founded like on a set of values, not on any sort of ethnic,
right.
geographic background. Yes, horrible things happen. Obviously, I'm a descendant of like some of the first slaves that were brought to the United States. My, DNA knows that, as well as pretty much anybody else, with the exception of the Native Americans. But this dismantling of the rule of law is not just undoing 250 years of American progress in the post Enlightenment period. This is we're going back to like this is like 800, and this is like 800 years
It's like Magna
of
Carta
this is
stuff.
the Magna Carta.
It's like
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
it's disgusting. These people are stupid. They think they know better, and they don't. They're not
And
scum.
there's no reason. Again, there's should people who are members of Tren de Aragua or MS-13 or any sort of transnational gang drug trafficker, should they be deported? Yes, absolutely, 100%. Prove it in a court of law and get their ass out.
But
I don't
why? But
care.
why are we sending them to? I remember. I'm old enough again to remember black sites. Why are we sending them to El Salvador if they're from
Uh,
Venezuela? Like I don't get
so
it. Like it doesn't make like the whole thing's so.
there are like some theories. I mean, yes, like you should be sent back to your country of origin if you're being deported. Um, but it's cheaper to. They worked out a contract with Bukele. Again, another one of these, like another third world dictator that we're sort of like emulating here. Um, he is. I read a news article over the weekend that he is engaged in this partially because there are some gang members that he's either trying to keep them in El Salvador or keep them, that essentially there are people who have been involved with a bunch of corruption and a bunch of gangs and stuff that are allegedly involved with him, and I think they're in the States or something like that, and he wants to get them
So
into
we're
this
we're
super
coordinating
jail.
our
So
efforts with that prison is horrifying. By the way, it is
yeah,
horrifying. It is like
I mean, if you
it's a
read the
horror.
article
It's a Saw movie.
from the Time journalist about being there when it happened, I mean, it's just like and again, like, even if these people were horrible and have done horrible things, this is America, okay? This is the United States of America. Again, like I said, I truly believe, for better or for worse, America, the greatest force for good on the planet, is, I F Ronald Reagan, but I do believe that America is the next best hope, the best hope for the world. And we created a system where just because you commit heinous crimes, we do not violate your human rights to a degree in which you are tortured. We don't do that. Have we done it? Yes. It's contradictory. I get it. But that is against all of our sort of most foundational values, is the right to trial and the right to be punished in a way that is not torturous or cruel. And like many of our ideals, they may in practice be aspirational, but this is a decided, sort of turn away from the founders.
I agree 100%. It makes me sad. I don't want to be a part of a country that
And I don't
acts.
like these people. It's just like free speech. You defend free speech because you defend the people. The worst of it is what you have to defend so that you can defend your own speech. It's the same reason why people complain about unions defending the worst employees. It's because you have to defend the worst employees because you have to defend to be able to defend the best, you have to defend the
So
worst.
we have places here in Buffalo where multiple inmates have been killed. We have a holding center here where people have been killed and beaten.
Yeah,
This is going to trickle down to our local holding centers. It's going to trickle down. This
absolutely.
idea that some people have human rights and others don't. It will trickle down to your family eventually. Maybe not tomorrow. Look at I keep saying this because I believe it. Cops are bullies. All right. Sorry to say that. Not every cop's a bully. Not every guy. Not every cop. But like they're as a culture, it's a bully culture. Have you talked to people from ICE? I have. Have you met with them? Sure, there's some nice guys in there. But by and large, they have this idea that everybody's a threat, the whole world's a threat against them, and they have to use maximum force to keep themselves safe. That's what they're taught. And to sick these people on the world and say, hey, listen, no holds bar, go get the bad guys, you're going to end up hurting people and hurting them badly. And I've seen this happen on a small scale locally. I've seen it in different cases I've been involved in or adjacent to. I've seen it in protests when I've been on the BLM protests, and you saw the glee with some of the officers had and how they were hurting other people.
Mm-hmm.
When you create a culture of sadism, what it is, joy by hurting others. I see it in that Carolyn, what's her name? Carolyn Levitt. I see it in the way she talks about, what if Jesus did come here? What if Jesus is the savior of the world and he's the Prince of Peace and he came? Would he be proud of the fact that we used Hollywood production quality to show random dudes being shoved into a prison in El Salvador? I mean, it's horrifying. It's not, look, I'm a guy with a cat, okay? What can I say? I'm not into hurting people and, mayhem. And I think that those who are, you're sick. You're what they would call a sadist.
Yeah, you're just you hate America. That's the reality of
You
it.
hate people.
You hate the things you hate the things that actually make America a great place, right? And like people always, the in our modern, sort of like nationalistic identitarian politics, Trump told you like what it meant to be an American. It's like strong and tariffs and like whatever else, whatever other bullshit that he likes to talk about. And I think what does it mean to be an American? You ask like a Democrat, and I don't know what the answer is that like you're going to get necessarily. Like, what is American identity? If you ask like
I don't know
a
I don't know
Democrat.
what they would say. I can tell you what I would say. American identity means that we believe in fundamental human rights for all people, and that we will fight for that. We believe that the content of somebody's character is more important than the content than their ethnicity or their background or social status. These are the things we should believe, but I don't know what it means now, especially to the
Well,
Republicans.
right, and that's the thing is we have to define that. We have to present an uplifting, positive, and inclusive American identity that everybody can be a part of.
And here's the
Because
thing.
Trump and the Republicans can't do that, even if they are pulling away some Hispanic support and Black support. Fundamentally, it's a negative message.
Next time we're on this, I want to talk about free speech because we've talked about it a little bit before, but I want to say to you, I think that I remember living in China and feeling scared to say certain things in public. I starting to feel that way here. Part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast is because I'm like, we need to speak out while we still can. Because I don't know what's going to happen down the line here. I can see so many people from online. Do you want to see a lot of scared people? Go on LinkedIn. It's like the whole sky could be falling, and the people on LinkedIn are like just talking in corporate speak about look at our
All they
new
want to
project.
do is tell you what Trump what the Department of Justice ignoring the due process rights of 238 Venezuelans taught me about business to business
I mean,
as
it's
AAS
almost like
sales.
it's like LinkedIn is like some other weird world where there's no reality.
Yeah,
There's no reality in
yeah,
LinkedIn. It's
yeah. No, it's
scary. And like and not just LinkedIn. I see it in the local news now. I see it like the worst thing in the world could be happening, and then the local news will come on, and some cheerfully beautiful weather person will be telling me how wonderful the world is. I'm like, did you just watch what was just on 2 seconds ago? It just seems like we are living in a period where free speech. How many times did you hear? I don't ever remember this as a kid growing up, where people would say to me, "I don't want to say that out loud." I remember when like I was a kid and the internet first started, people would go online and say all kinds of weird stuff. It was like
yeah. I mean,
it was.
and I grew up on Xbox Live, and I was on 4chan when I was like 12 years old. So like that's all you need. That's all you need to know about me. But and I think you're right. And I think for me, the thing that came to my mind was like, the idea for me now is that like I don't a lot of the times, like I'll like leave the house without my wallet. I'm
Why?
not gonna do that anymore because
Oh, I
don't
see.
if I don't need
Yeah.
it. If I'm just running to the store or whatever and I'm gonna Apple Pay for whatever it is I'm gonna buy, I'm running to get a coffee, going hell, I'm going out for like a literally a walk around the block for some exercise for the day. I'm not bringing my wallet. I'm just walking around the neighborhood. But now it's like if I don't have my ID, an ICE agent could detain me and I could end up somewhere for how long without being able to talk to a lawyer or produce any documents. And fuck it, seemingly I could end up in some weird black site for a month, or fuck it, how long until an American citizen ends up in, excuse me, F it, recut this for TikTok, bleep me out. Um, you end up in the super terrorism concentration camp in El Salvador.
I don't know what to say. I see this woman, the AG, threatening. Did you see her? She's threatening.
Jasmine Crockett.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know what to say. It's like I think the
Why you're the attorney general? Get the fuck off. Wow,
yeah,
I
she's on
got
she's on
just for
Fox, she's on Fox every
get off.
day.
You're the
Again,
attorney general.
again,
Get off of television.
you should be able to swear too. It's weird that I can't post these videos unless some Chinese minder says I'm going to take down the video because of the.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, I can go on TikTok and see some of the sickest stuff I ever saw, but you're not allowed to say the
yeah,
F
I know.
word.
Well,
It-
just Instagram Reels. There's no rules.
oh, is that right? Maybe I should get on Instagram Reels.
Instagram Reels is like high
Look,
tier degeneracy.
I am basically
Um,
I'm basically a free I am a free speaks absolutist. If it's not going to cause immediate harm to anybody, I remember Christopher Hitchens used to go and he'd start a speech where he'd say fire, 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 fire. I just said it. I said fire in a crowded room. What are you going to do to me? He was almost a free speech absolutist, and I thought a lot of his points were very persuasive. Uh, I do believe that we should have broad leniency for speech. And I'm someone who's being sued as I speak for defamation in two different cases. So, like, I am dealing with this in my real life world. They are trying to shut down speech through litigation. They are trying to shut down speech through litigation. The right wing groups.
they're going after these law firms. That was the other thing I think I maybe wanted to talk about. I mean, this stuff with these law firms
It's
is it like
terrifying.
you're never supposed, like I said, I think the last time in politics, you're never supposed to compare anything to George Orwell or Hitler.
Well, it's okay. They've taken away any checks. Right, the Congress is gone. Right, they can do anything they want. No one cares. Now they're taking away the judicial check. The only thing that gives me a little bit of hope is John Roberts. He picked a fight with John Roberts, and I think, well, you don't got the votes, dude.
I
It's
mean, yeah, you're an attorney. One of the things I've learned about like legal stuff is that the worst thing you could do as a lawyer is like, or as anybody, is like impugn a judge's like independence or check their ego in any way,
listen.
shape, or
I
form.
am not easily intimidated. I'm talking going into a federal court as a lawyer is intimidating. and I think he's stupid to pick a fight with these federal judges. I'm not sure what power they have to enforce their rulings because Congress is toothless, but I do think it's the last
I mean,
check.
they have pretty much none. What is, what are they going to do?
Michael, what is this? Johnson said
U.S. Marshal going to go arrest a U.S. attorney?
Johnson said he's going to get rid of some of the district courts.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, these. I mean, we. So this is the Viktor Orban strategy. They've now put the press corps full of. Now the media is not checking them. They've filled the press corps with a bunch of idiots who give them softball questions. This is level 3 dictatorship. Level 9 is Stalin. Level 10 is Mao. We are going down the way. We're in the early stages of dictatorship.
Rapidly.
Yeah, I mean, I keep saying, I don't. Do you think you're going to have elections? Not if Chuck Schumer is in
No,
charge.
I don't like. I think in another thing we should talk about, and I think it's maybe we can set this as an intention for the next time we sit down, is like particularly you as a person who spent a lot of time in China, and me as a person who has read a lot. I see a lot of, like, obviously you make the Hitler comparisons, whatever. I feel like this is like Trump is really more in the like Mao Zedong sort of Pol Pot cultural revolution
I mean,
style of leader versus
does
a more
she?
Hitlerian.
I don't. He's definitely trying to. He's everything with him is a culture war. So yeah, we could talk about that more. But what I will say to you right now is, yeah, I am worried. I am worried. I'm worried for the future of the country, and I don't think the Democratic Party is the DNA to fight this guy. I think our best hope is that he just somehow fails and quits because he's so inept. And I mean, I
I
don't.
don't I don't not have faith in, there's a there's an and this is like I think maybe a good thing to wrap on since we're like talking about this. There is an article that was published in Axios on Friday night about the response from uh, the Democratic base. Um, so, like a Quinnipiac poll came out within the party, approval is down 50% from where it was last year. So like last year, 75% of Democrats had a positive approval of the congressional Democrats. Now it's 40%. And the revealing part of the article is here. It says there's a senior House Democrat told Axios that a colleague called them after a town hall crying and said, quote, they hate us. They hate us. Among the things I got at a town hall were, will you call for Chuck Schumer to resign?
Are we having?
Last
Do
week
we
I
have?
got,
Do we have?
you need to tell your leadership they had no right rebuking Democrats for being strong at Trump's speech. And another thing I got was, Democrats are too nice. Nice and civility don't work. Are you prepared for violence?
Wait, let me ask you. Is our local congressman having town halls?
I don't think so.
No, he's doing roundtables with selected groups. He's doing roundtables, labor
Okay.
roundtable. He's not doing public town halls because they can't take it. They can't take the discussion. If I wouldn't be planning some stupid thing at the border, it's not stupid. I mean, people are excited about it, so I should probably be excited about it, even though I'm dreading doing it. I wouldn't be planning. I wouldn't be planning this if our congressman was planning it or doing something. Listen. I don't know, man. I think the whole thing needs to be reset. I think for us to have a chance, we need to get some Navalny's in here. We need to get some Navalny's in here, or go to Poland.
Yeah.
Look at the people in
I mean,
Poland who fought.
I do you think you need, obviously like RIP to him. But I do think, there's again, I think the leaders in the party are that they're here, and I think they need to, like I love that AOC and Bernie are like on this tour and like, maybe Connor Lamb doesn't think it would be good for him to go on a tour with AOC, but like I think that those people, the people who have the gumption and the backbone to actually go out and fight Republicans, take the messaging to them. Greg Casar is a newer congressman from Texas, progressive, very, very good. He was on Fox News in the last couple of days, did a very good job. So, like, those are the folks I think we need to keep sending out there. Those are the folks I think who are the new, should be leading the charge against, the MAGA assault on American values and our way of life.
Well, listen, you know who these people are. I don't know who they are. So surprise me, guys. Come out. Let's shock the world. Show us how awesome you are. I'd love to see it. I don't think that some of the people you named are the guys, the ones I do know. But I do know this. Time to go home. Ready?
Yeah.
Can you hear this or no? It doesn't play for you, does it? Oh, that's beautiful.
No.
It's some beautiful stuff. It's a little theremin. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.